everybody, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris with your Morning Magpie. This is the 11th edition, just a really quick news show where we talk about the headlines that's hitting Newcastle United news right now. So let's get stuck right in then. So there's no better place to start than our main man, our midfield dynamo, which is Bruno Guimarães. He's in demand. So all these top four, well, I suppose the top four clubs, we're top four now. All these top greedy six clubs that wanted to leave and go to the ESL are now struggling to understand why they didn't sign this gem of a player. And apparently they're all talking about trying to take him in January. Chelsea are leading the charge, apparently, and that has also forced Newcastle United to look at a new contract for Bruno. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. He's a world-class midfielder. I think he's way better than any of us ever thought he was going to be. But Bruno has come out himself and he said, "This is only my first full season at Newcastle United. There's a long way to go. I love playing here. I love the bond with the fans, and I want to become a legend here. The rest I leave with my agent. I have 3 or 4 years of my contract left. It's so long." So that tells me Bruno doesn't want to go anywhere. So all these shithouses can just jog on. It's your own fault for having crap scouts, not realising how amazing this lad was. He's black and white through and through. He's going to go on to be the best midfielder we've ever had. So loving that from Bruno. But that's all over the news at the minute. I'm sure the shithouse journalists will be stirring the pot, wanting to put him every other club other than ours. But we're on the right way, going up, and they're going backwards. So moving on to another player who's completely in the form of his life is Miggy Almirón. The lad's covered it on Wednesday. He's absolutely sensational at the moment. Everybody owes him an apology, me included, whoever writ him off. And we're talking about potentially he's going to be a new at-hand steal for Miggy Almirón. We all thought he might have been one of the victims of moving on as we progress, maybe get better players in, like your Diabys and your Madisons. But the way Miggy's playing right now, you can't get him out of this squad. He's absolutely fantastic. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. And I think that will be well deserving for Miggy Almirón to come on and obviously get that new deal that's well deserved. There's some stories going around about the stadium naming rights. Now, I have put fact or fiction on this. We think it's utter bullshit, to be honest with you. But I think there was a couple of stories going along from, was it Footy Insiders, I think it was, which have been quoted as being students and 12-year-olds or something like that. So we don't really put a lot of stock in it. But people are talking about there's going to be a £300 million deal announced about the stadium naming rights. It's obviously something that's quite sensitive to people because they're very unsure about it. You know, obviously the way Ashley did it pissed us off completely. But, you know, whether it's fact or fiction, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. I think it's all BS. You know, I think that the way that Darren Eales was talking about it would be well considered, well spoken to, you know, in terms of the supporters. I'm sure the Newcastle United supporters trust will also be spoken about with regards to that. I don't think it's going to just be slipped out by some cheeky little social media account by a bunch of students who have stopped vaping for 5 minutes. So, yeah, we think it's bullshit, but let us know what you guys think in the comments below. One of our former players has been reminiscing about the Toon as well. Davide Santon has been speaking to the Chronicle with quite affectionate memories of his time at Newcastle United, just how wonderful the fans were, and and how they made him a better player. And I know he was devastated when he had to move on and stuff like that as well. Santon was a really good player for Newcastle, to be fair. He did have a few injuries, but he was a sensational player that season that we finished fifth. He was brilliant. I remember him setting up, I think, the first goal of Cissé's ridiculous brace against Chelsea, where he put the ball in and Cissé flicked it with one foot and volleyed in the other. But yeah, it's nice to hear Santon speaking so fondly about Newcastle United. He's had to retire quite early through injury, so it's a real shame for David. But yeah, it just shows you the impact that this club has on the foreign players. All this talk about how we don't take to players who aren't from our region, all that bollocks. It's just not the case at all. You see how affectionate guys like Davide Santon and guys like Cissé and even Cabaye, who left in a bit of a cloud. The way they talk about the club, it just shows you what it means to play for this football club. So it's absolutely brilliant to hear Santon speak so affectionately about such a wonderful football club. So moving on to the future, obviously Trossard has been a player that's been linked to us quite heavily in the media. His contract runs out, I think, in the summer. So we did a rumour hazard on him, so check that out. It's up there now. Mark's been firing a stack computer up. He's a brilliant player, 25 million quid, 27 years old. I think he'd be an unbelievable buy for us. Come January, if we're still in these positions, I think we'll push the button and go big. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get 2 or 3 big name signings in, and him at 25 million would be a fantastic piece of business, no doubt whatsoever. And looking to the future yet again, Brazilian wonder kids on the radar. So there's been talk about us. We've always been after, for a long time now, we've been after Andre Santos, who's a midfielder, kind of a box-to-box midfielder, wins at defensively in attack. We've now also been linked to a winger called Angelo Gabriel, I believe it is. It's some unbelievable comparisons to the lad, to be honest with you. I'm just going to pull up these ones that I sent Mark earlier on. So the lad has been linked. Yeah, so Angelo is been linked to comparisons to Neymar. Apparently, that he's really good at assists and skill. I've watched the lad on YouTube. I don't confess to know a lot about Brazilian football, but he looks unbelievable. Pace, skill, flair. He drifts in and out of players. People are kicking him up in the air. He's back up again. He's moving. He's running. You know, I think him and Endrick, who's the goal machine for Brazil, are very much the next two off that conveyor belt for Brazilian superstars. And it really looks like Newcastle United are going to be going big with Angelo Gabriel. There's talk of us trying to tie in the deal up, you know, in the coming months, really. So that's definitely one that we'll be watching. Whatever more, I'm sure we'll get a rumour has it done about him. We've already talked about Santos, but we'll talk about updates on that one as well. But yeah, two really exciting players to be linked to in the past, which is absolutely in the past, beg your pardon, in the future, which is absolutely incredible. But going back to the past, time yourself up nuts, yeah. Going back to the past, so much news. A player who did burst on the scene with us and excited us was Moussa Sissoko. So why am I talking about Moussa Sissoko? Well, there's a story that's come out. So Moussa Sissoko is actually going to sue the Sun, which I'm sure anyone who thinks about the Sun, the way I think about the Sun, probably thinks that's well over time due. So what happened is the Sun has run a story about Moussa Sissoko, not the only newspaper, by the way, but the Sun has run a story about Moussa Sissoko apparently racking up 60 grand's worth of debt and being taken to court by an energy company. So even footballers can't escape the energy crisis. Can you believe it? But Moussa Sissoko was taken to Twitter to disagree with this. He has said in a tweet, and I quote, at the Sun, you use my name and image for a matter that doesn't concern me. You've not verified my information, and this is causing personal harm to me and my family. Because of a namesake, you sold a paper on my back. Okay, I am filing a complaint against you, and justice will do its job. You don't smear people with impunity just to create buzz. Next time you'll do your job better as a pseudo-scandalous journalist. Now, that's probably, outside of the Chelsea game, the best thing that Moussa Sissoko has done in his career in the past few years. So credit to Moussa Sissoko, absolutely sensational. I hope he kicks the crap out of the Sun, because I wouldn't wipe my arse with it. It's a disgraceful magazine. It's a disgraceful newspaper called a magazine. I wouldn't even wipe my arse with it. It's dreadful. So good luck to Moussa Sissoko, and I really hope he sues his shite out of them. So moving on to just finish up the show with our fantastic manager. So this is in response to the utter nonsensical comments of the hairy-handed wazzock that is Richard Keys, who said, I think it was on BN Sports, that he thought players could live in London and commute to Newcastle 3 times a week because Newcastle has nothing to offer. You know, we had our say about that on What's Going On. Utter bollocks, to be honest with you. It just doesn't surprise me, Richard Keys. But our wonderful manager, our articulate manager, has turned around and said he hadn't heard the comments, but it's an absolute non-starter for him. We play for Newcastle, work for Newcastle, and we'll be in Newcastle. We're proud to be associated with this city, and it's a brilliant place to live. What a man. What an unbelievable man we have as a manager. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Richard Keys. So that's your Newcastle United news roundup. I hope you enjoyed it. As I mentioned, I was going to mention at the start, but I'll mention it right now. If you haven't already and you're new to the channel, please click like and subscribe. We'd love you to come on board. We've got 1930 subs at the minute, so room for more. We're trying to push to the 2,000 mark. We'd love you to come on board. All free content this. We have the 2 live shows, Mondays and Wednesdays, pop up videos just like Morning Magpie, reviews, match reviews, previews, and transfer banter as well. So come and join Evermore. You won't regret it. And wherever you are, have a good morning, Magpies. We'll catch you later. Cheers.